things. But anyway, let's move on, David, to education.
Yes, so we have here a Tory MP speaking out, Miriam Cates. She wants a full inquiry into relationship and sex education. And she's concerned about the widespread use of age-inappropriate material. Now, this is a significant point because this has been a campaign, a grassroots campaign in Scotland, England, Ireland and Wales, and we've reported it on the UK column by parents and others against the nature of sex education in the schools and the fact that it's essentially an application of queer theory and it's an attack on the family, an attack on society. This grassroots campaign has been sufficiently successful that we're now seeing MPs bravely taking up the case and asking some questions. The Express report here continues. Former teacher Miss Crates told MPs that children were receiving graphic lessons on X-rated subjects, and were being taught that there is an almost limitless number of genders. She said, quote, "We must make it incumbent on all schools to publish their RSE lessons, plans and resources so parents can see what is being taught and make informed decisions about whether they want to use their legal right to withdraw their children from sex education." And we have here a statement from her going into this in more detail, which we'll just let people read on the screen if they want to freeze frame that, as we're a bit short for time. And we'll move on to the other aspect of this. I give you the Educational Institute of Scotland, the EIS. This is a trade union of most Scottish school teachers. They're warning over toxic misinformation over trans rights. So this misinformation theme is whenever they're losing the argument. We see it from government as well, and they want to close people down. So they've warned about inaccurate information being lobbied towards schools regarding transgender pupils and the Gender Recognition Reform Bill, the bill that was so controversial it brought down Nicola Sturgeon. But this trade union is still supporting it. The EIS is right behind it. The union said it's supportive of self-declaration system for gender recognition. So 14-year-old boy decides he's a girl, that's fine. Nothing else needs to be asked. And has observed a rise in toxic debate and misinformation around the proposed changes and the existing rights of transgender people. So if you question this, if you think, no, I'm not happy with this is a huge change in how we're bringing up our children, this needs to be thought about, this needs to be examined, this needs to be critically explored, no, that's toxic. You can't say that because it's toxic in the view of the EIS. STV report continues. The EIS said the bill would have a major impact on improving the well-being, they can't define that, but still, well-being and dignity of trans people, and states that risks to women's equality and safety are not the fault of trans people. So the fault of who? Are the people who will exploit this not real trans people? Is it like socialism? It's never real socialism. Anyway, this comes from the EIS have issued a guidance document. I've got a few quotes here. This is the briefing on guidance and supporting transgender pupils in schools. EIS advises, when a young person approaches you to discuss their gender identity, they've often taken a long time to consider who to talk to and are looking for an adult to listen and be supportive. Coming out can be I'm not sure what coming out's got to do with it. Anyway, coming out can be beneficial for young people's well-being, as it allows them to discuss how they feel and get the support they need at the earliest point possible. A school staff member may be the first person a young person speaks to. This is telling teachers to put these young people, to endorse everything they say and put them on the path to the whole gender transformation clinics, puberty blockers, mutilating surgery, the whole lot. We're seeing the lawsuits for people who have been through this process and have realised they were betrayed by the people they should have been able to rely on to help them. But the EIS doesn't see it that way. They say treat sensitive personal information about pupils with respect and confidentiality, and don't disclose it unless required to do so by your employer or by law. I think that means don't tell the parents. And they say recognise that the teachers must recognise that they are a role model and therefore should be aware of the potentially serious impact which any demonstration by you of intolerance, or prejudice could have upon your standing as a teacher and your fitness to teach. That one, I think, is a threat. And then they go and they say, well, look, so you've got boys who decide they're girls and vice versa. And they say there's a difference in the service and activity between boys and girls. Transgender people should be treated according to their gender identity. If they're non-binary, on the basis that they have a choice, and this might alter from time to time. So if a school activity is divided between boys and girls, a transgender boy should be treated as a standard with the rest of the boys. So this is biological males entering female spaces is being endorsed by the EIS. And they are going to say that if you've got a problem where the physical differences might generate safety issues, they say that can be an exemption, but this exemption would not be applicable to physical activity, PE or sports in schools. And just quickly to look at who they're then pointing people to get advice from, LGBT Youth Scotland, which we've followed extensively because there's a whole series of sexual abuse cases surrounding that organisation. Mermaids, a highly controversial charity. The National Gender Identity Clinical Network for Scotland. Stonewall, the gay activist group, are the people they're pointing the teachers to for further advice. So the point I want to make here is the EIS has utterly surrendered to the neo-Marxist attack, the gender theory attack on society. They are not resisting this at all. They are endorsing and supporting every aspect of it. They are entirely fallen, and it is now we're now going to rely on individual teachers, individual head teachers, and most of all on parents to push it back against this agenda and protect the children from the harm that that's going to cause. Now, one of the things that's controlling what teachers, and particularly head teachers, do is the inspection regime. And we have a terribly sad story here. A head teacher killed herself after news of a low Ofsted rating. This is Ruth Perry. And she was told that Caversham Primary School in Reading would be downgraded from exceptional to inadequate. So from the top level to the bottom level. And this was the lady very sadly took her life. And her family reports that it was all to do with the Ofsted inspection. Her sister, Julia Waters, said Perry had described the inspection in November last year as the worst day of her life. She said Perry had been an absolute shadow of her former self while waiting on the report's publication. And they isolated her from her family. There was no support network for this lady. She was isolated from any professional, familial, or pastoral support, despite the severity of the event she'd gone through. The Guardian completes here. The Ofsted report said the school leaders did not have the required knowledge to keep pupils safe from harm. This was based on a one-day inspection. Matthew Purvis, Ofsted's Regional Director for South East, said, "We are deeply saddened by Ruth Perry's tragic death. Our thoughts remain with Mrs. Perry's family, friends, and everyone at Caversham Primary School community." They are not taking any responsibility, obviously, for the events. This has now produced a major pushback, and we see here a head teacher has actually, at least temporarily, refused Ofsted entry to the school after this event. Flora Cooper, executive head teacher, John Rankin Schools in Newbury in Berkshire, announced today she would not let inspectors inside her school, adding she's doing this for school staff everywhere. Now, she subsequently was forced to recant on that and received a lot of pressure and probably not enough support. But there are other pushbacks. Teachers are now wearing black armbands to commemorate the head teacher who sadly took her life when they're engaging with Ofsted inspectors. And apparently they're also sometimes starting the engagement with Ofsted inspections with a minute's silence. So they are pushing back in other ways, but they're being prevented from pushing back more firmly by the management system in the local councils who are giving them no support. So I think parents who look at this and are concerned need to be taking this up with their councillors. that they should be supporting the teachers and actually protecting them from this sort of aggressive inspection, which has reached a point where it's now costing, it would appear, lives.
Okay, David, and then just one final thing on the Scottish Union for Education.
I just pointed this out, Scottish Union for Education, this is newsletter 6, it includes an article by Stuart Waiton, friend of UK Column, and Richard Lucas, UK Column contributor. This newsletter is the best thing out there on education. Whether you're in Scotland or not, if you're interested in education and what's happening in schools, you should sign up for the Scottish Union of Education newsletter. There are 3 or 4 excellent articles each week. It's very thoughtful stuff, very good contributors, and quite the best thing on education I've seen.
Brilliant.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you to everybody for joining UK Column News today. I think it's been a really educational news because, of course, all of us are paying attention to what's being said. So it's not only our audience that is learning, the UK Column team always learn from a news programme. So let's put it in those terms. Just before we close, I would like to say that the unit I couldn't remember in connection with the Israeli Defence Force was Unit 8200, not 4200, and that is the Israeli equivalent, effectively, of the US NSA. And it was Francis Maud who was one of the key figures when this integration between UK intelligence and the Israeli systems took place, and UK Column reported that way back in 2016. We'll bring it to the surface again so that we can have a look at how it fits in with the picture today. And lastly, I just want to give a little mention to the ladies in Public Protection Wales who've been doing such good work to challenge this perverse teaching in schools that David's just been alluding to. So Lou Collins from Liberty Tactics is going to be working with the ladies to do another 24-hour pod-a-thon in order to raise money. We'll make sure that we give you details of that because, much as with Sandy Adams, it's great to see these ladies standing up to challenge the system.
We'll be back in a couple of minutes for some extra.
Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.